a lot of people ask, what is a Mary's Mini? Mary is Dr. McDougall's wife, so Mary McDougall, and she created this diet for many reasons. Diet, I say. Some people wanted to lose a few pounds really quickly and kind of reset their body. They want to drop a few pounds, so they do this mini and then they can, lose the weight, and that's all that they're doing it for. Some people do it because they start noticing that they are craving a lot of stuff. They're eating when they're not hungry. They're just not feeling their optimal. Some people are having a lot of, stress eating going on and whatnot. It's a way of gaining control of your eating patterns. So a lot of people go on the Mary's Mini for that. But basically you're picking one starch, and it could be rice, it could be quinoa, it could be potatoes. Most people choose potatoes because you can do a lot of stuff with potatoes. So you're choosing that starch, and then you're going to eat it with every meal. So every meal you're going to have the potatoes, and then you're going to use non-starchy vegetables in your diet, and you're going to eat a ton of that as well. So there's so much variety. Like, you can eat beans, you can eat greens, you can eat kale, you can eat all kinds of stuff. Red peppers, that's allowed. Because some people are like, is red pepper and tomato allowed because they're technically a fruit? I never knew about the red peppers. I knew about the tomatoes being a fruit, but Mary says they're allowed, so you can eat them. So yeah, you just eat a bunch of veg and your starch, and you do that for 10 days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And some people will lose a pound or two. That's it during the whole thing. What they're, aiming for is perhaps something else. If they were trying to lose weight, then I guess that's not so good because they only lost a couple pounds. For me, we eat really healthy normally. I can't say that we don't, but I noticed that I wasn't eating when I was hungry all the time. So I started to be a muncher, and I started to have things when I knew I wasn't hungry. Like, why do I want this? So I thought, you know what? I read about the Mary's Mini, and it worked for other people to kind of reset your brain. You're only going to eat when you need to. Food is fuel for your body, and I think we forget that. So we just, eat all these different things, and, always have a mix of different foods on our plates. This brings you back to basics. You're eating two things, technically. You can have a variety of vegetables on your plate, but you've got veg and you have your starch. That's it. You're not going to be adding all kinds of crazy stuff to it. You are allowed to have light condiments if they're low in sugar or sugar-free, if they are low in salt as well. So I tend to do the sugar-free ketchup. That's what I put on my potatoes. And you're allowed to put soy sauce, so like a low sodium soy sauce would be acceptable. Vinegar is acceptable on your veggies if you need to put a little bit, but again, it's a light sprinkling, and that's it. You're not overdoing it on all the condiments. A lot of people love to use mustard because mustard is low calorie. I'm not a mustard fan, so I'm not using mustard, but if you like mustard, that's a perfect one for you. Here's the 10-pound bag that we got for the Mary's Mini. So this should last us for a little bit. We will have to pick up some more, I think. I'm just going to put them in the pressure cooker and cook them up, and then pop them into, I guess, a Ziploc bag. I might still have some of those in the cupboard, the big ones, and put them in the fridge. If not, I'll just try to find a big Tupperware that can hold all the potatoes and put it in the fridge. So these are yellow potatoes. You can do the Mary's Mini with any type of potato, but I really like the yellow, so we're going to try it with the yellow, and then we'll go from there. You're not really supposed to change up the potatoes. You're supposed to just choose one, but I know a lot of people that do Mary's Mini that eat more than one type. Like, they'll have russet and they'll have yellow. They'll still stick within the guidelines, but they'll just choose different types of potatoes. And it seems to work okay, but technically Mary says you stick with one potato. So I have a spring mix here. We've got cauliflower and broccoli. And then I also have frozen broccoli in the freezer. And then the broccoli slaw. So it's broccoli, carrots, red cabbage, kohlrabi, and cauliflower. So I like this mix because I like to add it into the greens, and I feel like it's a nice combination. So you're allowed to add condiments. So we have a jalapeno sauce. I've also added jalapenos to my potatoes as well, a few jalapenos on top, just to help me eat the big potato a little bit easier. This again is a huge container because we don't mess around. We love jalapenos. And this again was from the Costco Business Center, and it was like $5 for this huge thing. Another thing that is not allowed is fruit. So no fruit is allowed on the Mary's Mini. So for 10 days, you have to say goodbye to all your fruit because it is not allowed. So that is a little bit difficult because I like to have fruit for breakfast. I typically eat my fruit early during the day, and that way it has plenty of time to digest. But no fruit is allowed, so you kind of have to get over it. No fruit allowed on Mary's Mini. So I've been using the big version of the Instapot just because I'm making such a large quantity of potatoes. It makes more sense to make it in here, and then I don't use the keep warm setting. I just make sure that it, you know, releases on its own, and then I unplug it and then eventually open it up, let it cool off. Once they're cool enough, then I will transfer them to the bags, the Ziploc bags inside the fridge. And it's that simple. If you want to do mashed potatoes, I actually make it in the pressure cooker. So you put the amount of potatoes that you want, you cook them. You cook them a little bit longer than you normally would. Like for this whole thing full of potatoes, I'll usually do 20 to 25 minutes, and I allow it to release on its own. So for the mashed potatoes, I'll definitely do 25 minutes for sure. And I think the ones I'm going to use are smaller, so they should cook in 25 minutes. It'll be fine. But the difference is I'm going to keep the keep warm setting on because I find that that works better. So it will naturally really release and all that business, but I like to keep them warm inside the pot until I'm ready to mash them. So much easier to mash when they're nice and warm. So then I'll just mash them in there. You can use some broth. You just have to be careful that it's not super high in sodium. So use some broth and mash them up. You can add some seasonings because that is allowed on the Mary's Mini. And that's it. You've got mashed potatoes, and that's another great meal that you can eat many times a day. So what I do is I make all the potatoes in the pressure cooker like I've showed you guys in the videos. And then I just pop them into a big freezer bag. If you have a really big container, that would work too. You can just put the container in the fridge, and that way you have potatoes ready for you. And if you're doing rice, you can do the same thing. You make the rice, you pop it into a Ziploc bag or different containers for different meals, and that way it's ready for you. If you're not prepared, you won't do well on the Mary's Mini. So this is the Cuisinart air fryer. It's also a toaster. You can broil things, you can bake things in here. It's kind of an all-in-one, and it's countertop. They are kind of expensive, but this one was given to me. My awesome mother-in-law gave it to me. So we've been using this one steady while we're on the Mary's Mini. I do have the Kosori, which I'll be using when I do like the mashed potato puffs that a lot of people have success doing. I'm gonna do it in that. But as far as the fries goes, like this thing is amazing. And then this is the tray. So this is the tray, and it's awesome. Like it's a really big tray, and it just gets so crispy and awesome. I really like this air fryer. I highly recommend it. If you can pick it up, if you can afford to pick it up, then definitely do so, because you can do so many things. Like we toast in it, and then we do the air frying stuff. Before we went on the minis, we were making like samosas in here, and they turned out amazing. So it really depends on what your price point is, and how much money you have to play with. And do you need like a toaster as well? Do you want something quick? Like my kids like to bake things quickly instead of using the big oven. So it really depends on what your needs are, but this one is great. And then of course, I've got the Kosori, which is amazing. Like I love it. I absolutely love this air fryer. It works really well. I have the bigger version, so it has a bigger tray, but it works perfectly. This one, you know, I never had any issues with, and I was totally happy with just having this, but I was given the bigger one from my mother-in-law, so we use both. We just use them for different things, and then I'll just show you. This is what the tray looks like. I have showed it on other videos. It is quite large, and you can put parchment on the bottom so that it's even easier for cleanup, which I really like. And they have like a warm-up feature, which I use all the time, and that way it's nice and hot before I put anything in it. So again, this one is a great price point for what it is. I have the large capacity, so mine was a little more expensive. It was over $100. But if you're okay with the smaller one, then go ahead and get the smaller one. The Kosori is awesome. Another thing that people forget is while you're on the Mary's Mini, it is very, very important to stay hydrated. You have to keep drinking. So, I mean, again, my mother-in-law gave me this. She's amazing. I use these, we fill them up, and that way we always have room temperature water ready for us. And then I just fill up my glass, like you can see my glass is there. And then sometimes we add lemon. I think that's fine on the Mary's Mini as well, adding the lemon to your water. I just don't, because I only do it once in a while, and my 13-year-old likes lemon water. So if she's gonna be drinking it, then I'll add lemon to one of the containers. And that's pretty much it. So drink lots and lots of water. Is coffee allowed on the Mary's Mini? That is another big question. Yes, it is if you drink it black. So I just drink black coffee, and I'm still having that on my Mary's Mini. We have a normal coffee maker and a Keurig. We only use the Keurig once in a while if we just want 1 cup, because that will save us from making a pot and over drinking our coffee. And also it's easy for the older teenagers to just make a quick cup of coffee. I'm finding though my taste buds are changing. So I'm on day 5 today, and my taste buds are completely changed already. That's another thing. It resets you. So things do not taste the same, and you're not craving things like you were prior to the Mini. So I'm a huge coffee drinker. I love, love, love dark coffee, strong coffee. I'm drinking this, and it's not even that dark, and I'm having a hard time getting it down. Even my husband was surprised. He's like, what? Yeah, so just be ready for that. The things you love, you may not like anymore because your taste buds are completely altered. So one of the questions that is often asked on the Mary's Mini is, can you combine sweet potato with regular potato while on your Mary's Mini? You cannot. If you choose sweet potatoes, you have to eat sweet potatoes for 10 days. And there's some debate on, there's different types of sweet potatoes. Can you mix those up when you are on the Mary's Mini? I'm not sure about that. I'm sure it's fine. If you pick sweet potato, you stick with different types of sweet potato. That should be interesting. Give yourself some variety. But yeah, I have some sweet potatoes here, but I can't have them because we chose white potatoes, so that's gonna have to wait. So I have this huge thing of tomatoes that my husband bought at the Costco Business Center. So tomatoes are allowed on the Mary's Mini, so we'll be eating that as well. But like, it's huge. It's a huge container. So that'll be delicious. So I'm going to be showing you some of my meals. A lot of it is repetitive. So I'm not going to show you every day because you'd be looking at the same thing constantly, and that's boring. So I will show you a few of the meals that I've been eating, you know, for maybe days 1 to 3 or day 1 to 5, and then, you know, do day 5 to 10. If I change it up, which I do plan on changing up some of the ways we're eating the potatoes, and I'll give you a glimpse at my experience with my first Mary's Mini.